All right. I see Jeff there now. Okay. Beth, can you start off by just telling us what happened with the select board meeting as far as the budget goes for the
Sure.
snowball?
Sure. We went, the first time we went was in August meeting and they tabled the budget. They wanted us to give them another scenario with COVID revenue shortfalls. And if there were shortfalls in the revenue, what were we going to do for expenses to cut expenses, and how are we going to do that? So we went back on September 1st to the select board after working on different scenarios. We came up with a smaller budget, less $54,000 of the original budget that we had proposed. And a lot of that is personnel time. So with that, that means that we may possibly have to cut hours of operation, which is what the team is looking at right now. That will save money in payroll, and it will decrease the shifts that we have to have at the mountain, and possibly electricity. We also talked about prioritizing snowmaking. Definitely want to make snow off peak energy times as best we can. We have a feeling that there probably will not be any fourth grade learn to ski programs this year, as the schools have canceled all field trips. So there's going to be less instructors to pay. So we've been talking about all those scenarios, and of course, every time you think about one scenario, another scenario comes up. So we did the best we could with cutting expenses, with the idea that there would be some revenue shortfalls, but we may be surprised. Andrew Daly from Side Country Sports talks about how many skis he's been selling because people foresee there not being basketball or swimming this winter, and that everybody's going to want to ski. We may be the only outlet that kids and folks have this winter, so we've got to do it right. Within this presentation that we did for the select board, we also had a COVID reopening plan that Holly and I have put together, and the team. Obviously, it's a living document, and we will continue to have to change it and tweak it, and with whatever new restrictions we get, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we are. I don't know if anyone has. I did just email you the budget that they finalized, so you have that in your email if you want to look at that, or email me some questions if you have them, whatever.
I remember that in the August meeting, there was questions about the big number in there for a new groomer. Where do you stand on what you're going to do for groomers this year?
Well, we have our two that we were going to trade for that newer groomer for us. Those machines will last another year. Let's just hope we don't have some big part of it break down or something. We are still okay with what we've got. We've done it for many years. The board was supportive in another time. They were just really uncertain with the uncertainties of COVID of buying such a large number piece of equipment. So, and we get that, and so didn't the vendor. You know, he said all his sales are down because the mountains they're not trading up right now. So
understandable.
How will one groomer in the future affect how you do it versus having two? Do they run at the same time normally?
We will still have two. We have three.
Oh,
currently.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ray, I can go through the reopening plan, the draft plan, if you'd like to do that, or we can wait till the end for other stuff if you want to.
What I was wondering, my next question was going to be advanced ticket sales and everything. When are you going to start opening up for the ticket sales for ski season?
We opened up season pass sales on September 1st.
On September 1st. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Holly, why don't you just go through, if you can do a quick summary on the COVID plan then?
Yeah, I will, I'll email this to everyone. But I will, let me share my screen real quick. Just a second, there we go. So, let's see, go away. So can you guys see that, the start of that, okay?
Yeah.
So so the NSAA, Beth and I have been sitting in on a number of the NSAA meetings on Zoom, and they put together a document that we picked up a lot of things from, and modified, customized it for the Snow Bowl. So there's some kind of informational in the beginning, talks about the benefits and advantages of what's good about coming to a ski area. And then as we go through some of the requirements and why they're important to do, and some of the plans that we're going to have. I'm just going to skip through this real quick. We also have an employee training piece of it. I'm going to develop this into a public document that cuts out some of the things that the public doesn't need to wade through, and just go with what is it going to look like for them to come to the Super Bowl this year. As I keep going through here, then these are the operational details that are specific for the Snow Bowl, and how we're going to do season pass sales, for instance. We're doing it online right now. We're going to be reusing last year's season pass photos for anyone that had a season pass last year, and then requesting people email or text to me photos for new season passes, and then we'll turn around and mail the season passes to everyone, to eliminate as much as we can people needing to come up into the lodge, let alone coming up into the office to do that kind of thing. People that we can't capture this way electronically, then we will we'll be setting up a station somewhere in the lodge for people to come and get photos taken. And then the other thing that just happened in the last 24 hours is we were researching how to do digital waivers, and did a Zoom with a couple different companies, and we've chosen to go with a company called One Risk, and they were recommended to us through Mountain Guard, and I'm in the process of setting up our season pass waivers, the application with a waiver on it that they have to sign, and getting training next week on how to implement that. Those will then all be sent out and available to be sent out to anyone that has a season pass. This program will also allow us to do any waivers that we want to do online, for anything that they need to sign up for, whether it's lessons or toboggan nationals or any event. So anyways, that's the big thing that's happening now with the season passes. We're going to implement a phone in and reserve your rentals. That's going to be our big push to get to not have people standing around in both ticketing and rentals, having big clusters of people. So it'll be a requirement to do it ahead of time. And all of this stuff is going to have to, we're going to have to be able to be nimble and flexible, and change as we need to. One of the issues that we've run into is that due to the floor space in the ticketing area, we can only have 5 people by the state guidelines in that rental area and in the ticketing area. We can only have 15 here in the lodge. So that creates a big problem for us, having people inside both areas. So anyways, that's what we're doing with rentals. Ticketing, we're going to have the 2 POS stations over in ticketing like we have in the past. We have also the old bump out that's here in the lodge that used to kind of be the closet, I guess, for, it was behind where the ticketing used to be here in the corner. Years ago, back in the 70s, 90s. So anyways, we're going to be opening that bump out back again. We've moved a POS station in there, and we will be doing window sales of day tickets to keep people from needing to go inside again. We're going to be creating lines, 2 dedicated lines in the ticketing area with using stanchions and ropes like at a theater, and a space in between to keep people separated. The lockers, we're on the fence about whether to rent lockers or not. We haven't made a firm decision. I think we're leaning towards renting them. But it's going to be a real tough place for people to be in the locker room because there's no space and there's no ventilation down there. Again, then there's only 5 people down in the lower area that can be in it at any one time, and that's where the bathrooms are. So in the patrol area, we're waiting on details from the National U.S. Patrol Association or group on what their recommendations are. A lot of it's really just detailed for them in terms of what they need to do for PPE and then staggering staffing and things like that. Ski school, we're gonna also encourage the phone-in lesson requests, not have drop-ins. We're gonna eliminate group lessons, which will eliminate the need or the ability for people to just walk in and ask for lessons. We're gonna try to keep the lessons to family groups or privates only. And then to eliminate the cluster of ski instructors, we're going to have them, we're going to try to do that on a on-call basis, that as we have a reservation for that lesson and they leave, as opposed to having to sit around and waiting for people to walk in. Training center, it's going to be coaches only in that building because there's only one way in and one way out. And so that's just they're going to have to sort of figure that place over there. We don't think that there's going to be, we're waiting on the Ski and Snowboard Association guidelines, USSA, for what racing events, how they can do them, if they can do them at all. We're not sure about Friday night racing, school racing. We're not, we're waiting on the schools to decide if they're going to participate. We're looking into some more portable toilets outside. And I just started looking into heated portable toilets that are on trailers that you might see at like weddings, or I've seen them at Cellar Door Winery. Looking at the possibility of that. None of this stuff is budgeted for. There's nothing really in the budget to cover these things. So we need to be, really careful about what we do. And then for the lodge itself, we're gonna only have probably 6 tables here in the lodge, is the layout that we've come up with, to minimize, have people only sit in their groups. It's gonna cut out the socialization in here. We're going to have the door that you enter to the parking lot be the indoor, and the door out on the deck facing the mountain is going to be the exit door, and it'll be one-way traffic. And if you need to come back in for something, you've got to go all the way around the building to come back in.
What about going to the bathroom? Do you have to go out and then in?
You'll come back in. If you're outside and you need to go to the restroom, you need to come around to the front, to the parking lot door to come in.
What if you're in the lodge?
Pardon?
What if you're in the lodge?
If you're in the lodge, you have
to go outside.
Yeah, you've got to go outside.
We're not going to allow people to go down the stairs. It's too narrow.
All right.
Yeah. It's a pain, and I think it's just gonna. We've had a lot of people that have said, "Oh, we'll just plan on not going into the lodge this year. We're going to come. We're going to be dressed out in our cars, or we're going to be dressed and ready to go on the mountain when we get here, and they're going to be here to ski." Yes, Stuart?
back in the late 60s, the old lodge burnt over by the toboggan chute. And before this A-frame lodge was built, we had to spend a winter running to the car to get warm and then go back skiing. So it's been done once before and it's going to happen again.
Thank you. Food and beverage, there will be no food and beverage service in the lodge. They may use the lodge kitchen for prep, but there will be no service inside the lodge. Mark is going to be set up outside in his new truck trailer and serving out there. We may have some additional food options that we need to discuss with Mark. He may have some wrapped things in here. We've got to talk with him more, but bottom line is that we're not going to be serving food here so that people are waiting in line. It'll all be accessed outside. Lift lines, we're going to be requiring that they either go as singles or family members or their traveling party on the lifts. So no sitting with strangers on the lift. Everyone's got to wear a mask while they're loading and unloading and standing in line. We're going to be setting up the lines in such a way that that they're not shoulder to shoulder, that there's plenty of space in between the two different lines or three different lines, whatever we end up creating. Skis and snowboards, but skis for sure create a natural 6-foot separation between people. So that's going to be easy for people to do. We'll be out there, reminding people to do that. If we've got a bunch of health protocols that we're going to be establishing for the staff. A couple of them are, before they come in for their shift, they're going to have to answer sort of that questionnaire that we all are answering when we go to the doctor's office or into various places of business where you're going to be sitting for a while. I think of like hair salons as one of them, where they ask you the list of questions. We'll be doing that with our staff on a daily basis. We're going to be creating a document that we'll know who people are interacting with on a daily basis in terms of the staff. So if I never go over to maintenance, or an instructor never goes over to maintenance, then they don't have to worry about the exposure of a maintenance person or snowmaker or a lifty. So that way it's a contact tracing, but it's a tracking that we're gonna implement here. We're gonna have staggered shifts. We're possibly gonna change the hours so that we don't have the need for 2 shifts of workers, because then that just opens up that double exposure. Working with the state and the town as to those kinds of protocols. So anyways, that's the full document, the draft. There's some unanswered questions in it. Appendixes that go with it are the current guidelines from Ski Patrol, the current guidelines from the USSA is in here as well. And this is the layout that we've put together for the lodge area, what that's going to look like. And then these are just sort of a sample of what kinds of questions we'll be asking staff, as well as posting here on the doors for skiers to remind them of, if you're not feeling well, to not be here, kind of thing. So I'll email this out to everyone. I'm welcoming any comments, issues, missing items that we could consider putting back in here or putting in here. And we'll be updating it as time goes by. We're kind of waiting for school to start, because I think that school is going to make is going to sort of lead the charge in how things are going to go as we head into the kind of opening things back up on a larger scale. So that's where we are with that so far.
Okay. First, I'd just like to say, I think this looks very thorough. Really good job on this plan. The one question I have, are you going to have people to monitor the area where the lockers and the bathrooms are, or are you just going to go by faith that people will follow the instructions?
There's no faith involved.
Okay,
We can't, we've got lots of kids.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have people, whether it's staff or stewards or whatever, there will be people monitoring.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll be doing that.
okay. And the other question, if somebody shows up without a mask, without a COVID mask, are you going to have some available for sale there, or?
Yeah, I just got a quote from someone who does custom masks, and we'll have, yes, we will have masks available for people. I'm anticipating that people will be bringing their own, because by nature of
Right.
being out here and skiing, you're already going to be suited up for that kind of thing. But we will have masks available. We will have them for sale. As a possibility, kind of like as a souvenir,
Right.
along with our other merchandise that's branded.
Good, okay. All right, any other questions from anybody?
Just curious, it seems to me probably the hardest thing, and I'm sure you found this when you're planning for it, is, is the use of the lodge itself and the use of the restrooms. Just wondering if any consideration has gone to the possibility of some kind of a ancillary structure, tent or yurt that might allow, some break from the wind, break from the weather. I don't suppose that our tarp is likely to hold up to the kind of, weather that we would get in the winter, but, something that, what's been thought about or talked about along those lines, if anything?
Well, quite a bit. I was on a Zoom meeting this morning with Mimic, and several of the ski areas are purchasing small sheds for their staff to get warm in. Whose is that?
That's my phone going off here.
Oh, okay. Some of the ski areas are purchasing some yurts. They're quite pricey.
Ray,
I've been-
just mute. Ray, just mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's off now.
Okay. With the town being able to ask for money from the state, all summer I've been daydreaming about building a pavilion of some sort that we could put some heating units in. We just think, and we've seen it before at Toboggan Nationals, that any kind of tent just takes a toll out here with the wind that we get. So we're still brainstorming about that. And again, we have no money for that. So we don't know what it looks like yet, Brian.
Yeah, my thought was that given that the state has COVID funds, and this, as you say, I think we've got this golden opportunity because it is an outdoor recreational activity in the winter, and we're unique as a community to be able to offer it, that maybe there would be a way to tap some of the state COVID funding and something durable like a yurt that could serve a purpose in the future. I don't know how you get a porta-john into a yurt kind of thing, but maybe there's a silver lining where the state helps to fund something like that is portable. You need a solid base to put it on initially, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, the ski club, they realized that their typical fundraising is going to be much different this year. But they also, they are open to different type of giving us funding for different types of things that they normally don't. And one of their suggestions, or our suggestions that they liked, was a yurt. They might be willing to purchase one for us, and then in the future it would become a ski club type of facility. So we're still looking at that as well.
And I don't think that there's state money for that, unfortunately. I doubt that helping the Snow Bowl put a yurt or pavilion up with COVID money. I bet there's a lot more needier people than us, i.e. schools. But that's not to say that it's not possible, that there could be something out there. But we would love to hear from anyone that is willing to propose a fund, help us get it going and get it going sooner rather than later.
I heard on NPR yesterday, and I'm just looking at it now, there's $200 million for small businesses. But the grant, those are grants. And it says the grants are applicable to things necessary to operate. So it's small businesses. Unfortunately, the grant application is due today. So I know, I'm sorry, but I just heard it yesterday. The grants opened on August 20th. And I think it's for small businesses and nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of targeted towards the Snow Bowl.
Right.
I mean, any NGO.
Jeff, I'm familiar with that because Mary Spring has applied for that, and it's based on your percentage of your losses that you can show due to COVID. And I don't think Snow Bowl operations have shown any loss yet.
All right, fair enough. I figured there'd be something. Yeah, thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
I did have one question, Holly, about, and maybe I missed it. It was I really like the materials. You've done a lot of thought in it. But is it clear when and what sort of face masks are acceptable? I know you've got buffs and you've got neck gaiters, and are those all good? And is it clear to say, if you have a sign at the bottom of the mountain that says neck gaiters required or face masks required, when can they take them off?
I don't, there's, nationally, there's no one source that's saying, this is good, this is good, this is not good. So
I haven't seen it
it's up
either.
to interpretation. We can't check people's masks when they come in and see if they're okay. So I think that most of the masks that are being sold, the masks that I've been making to donate to people, they're all double fabric, cotton, tight weave. So most people are making them in such a way that they make sense.
What I'm thinking of, Holly, is standard ski wear that are not face masks per se, but they're buffs and neck gaiters. And is that going to be okay? You just need to decide.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think that's going to be a topic that we can approach with MEMIC, as well as the NSA, and ask them for guidance on that. They've not, hey, Ray.
Yeah.
Just mute, Ray.
Put
Just
yourself
mute.
on mute.
I know. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so we'll defer to them. And as Beth is showing, we do have these gaiters that we purchased last year just by stroke of luck, that they are really good quality,
And they're really cool too.
Yeah. So we may have to put in another order for those. Because now they're really popular. They're going to be really popular this year. They're no longer just a souvenir thing, kind of, So,
and where to wear them?
Well, we're going to have Matt.
Clear.
We're here on the facility.
Well, you've said it's in line, getting on the lifts,
It's gonna
around
be
the
everywhere.
facility. Once you're on the chairlift, I'm assuming
No.
And then getting off the chairlift and then skiing down.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have signage everywhere, and skiing down. I don't think we've gotten guidance on that from MEMIC or NSA about what the rule on that should be. But people are pretty far apart, anyways, while you're skiing down. So unless the issue will probably be with instructors teaching kids, but there was a discussion about that today of how to, that's an issue that other resorts are contemplating, is how do you, work with a child or with another person where you need to be holding them, and what do? Do you ask parents to step in and help with that kind of stuff? So those are questions that we're still working through.
Okay,
Closer than 6 feet as you ski down, Jeff, there's a safety issue involved, I think.
good. All right. Can we move on to the operations manager? And,
Good.
oh, okay, Brian, go ahead.
One other thing, given the discussion at the beginning about, finances being, sort of extra tight and et cetera, one of the ways that I've seen areas adapt in terms of snowmaking is more sort of, if you will, aggressive mowing, meaning shearing things a little bit tighter so that you need less snow to cover everything that's out there. I skied 2 seasons in southern New York where we had the guy would blow snow one night, blow about 4 inches, and he'd move it around and we'd ski it the next day. It was unbelievable. And we've got an incredible grooming team. I don't know who's going to be there this year, but there may be a way to dial in some mowing that allows us to not need to make quite as much snow potentially, and maybe something to be looked at and discussed amongst the people that really, who do that work, just as an idea.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. As far as the operations manager, Beth, can you update us what's happening?
Yeah, so we had some applications come in. Some were definitely not appropriate for that position. But what we decided to do is do a little bit of a reorganization over there. And so we've made Rochelle Gagney the interim mountain manager for this year. We're gonna let her give it a good try and see how she likes it and, make sure it's the right fit.
Mhm.
And we hired Jeff French, who was the mechanic over at the Public Works Department. And he's now with us on our team. He's going to study and learn all our motors and equipment here at the Snow Bowl and the Parks and Rec Department. He's gonna take all of that on. He's a great welder. He has lots of knowledge about our snowmaking pipes and where they are. He's willing to learn everything we've got going on here, and it's kind of a nice change for him. He was at Public Works for many years and wants to end his career out here with us. So we welcome him and can't wait to see what he brings. So that's where we are right now, and we're pretty happy about it.
Good.
I think the person behind Holly been hired full-time as well. Is that right, Stuart?
Yeah. He's been with us all summer. He gave up the restaurant business this year to be with us, so.
So,
Yeah.
psyched about
You
that.
might see him flying around on a mower in the cemeteries. He goes pretty fast.
Hey,
Okay. I'm sorry.
He said
He got-
he
What?
Sorry.
I said yesterday in Oak Hill, I did a history thing. I was mowing Oak Hill and I mowed over my parents, 2 sets of grandparents, 3 uncles and an aunt.
Okay. All right. Just going through a couple of things. Shirt Tail, I see there was some work on the entrance road going in.
Yeah, Dave St. Laurent at the Public Works Department has been chewing up a bunch of roads in Camden, if you haven't noticed. And a lot of that reclaim he's used throughout Camden, and that was what he used some of that there, which helped soften the drive in. So that was nice for him to do for us. He also has staged a whole mountain of it out here in the Snow Bowl parking lot, if you've seen
Yep.
that. And so that we'll talk about later in the agenda, but that was Dave St. Laurent fixed that for us, so.
Okay, fine. On Tannery Park, Tom, you wanted to update us as far as what's happening with the group that you're working with on the Tannery Park.
Yeah, that and to continue getting feedback from this committee. I mean, the proposal will be a Friends community proposal, but I'm coordinating with many members of the community and as many groups as possible on this. And it's a no-brainer that I would love, once this is ready, to get some sort of thumbs up or something from this committee. The more input this committee has into it, the better. So that being said, let me tell you what's going on. I've been sending some emails. I'm going to share a few things here. This first, let's see, share. Tell me when you got that picture. Is that up?
Yes, it's up.
Okay, this is from the Tannery Work Group, which reported to the Select Board back in 2017. So this was the end work of 2 years, and it wasn't super specific, but basically, if you look at the perimeter by the river, you have the open lawn, which is now the farmer's market, an area for playground, and we just labeled the rest of the green going around their park space and possibly sculpture garden. And then the community use area in the purple is in the middle there. And then we had a reserved area. When it's talked about that this is multi-use, the Tannery Work Group's proposal, the commercial building or non-commercial building area is in pink. So that's where I started this proposal, based on 2 years of work. And that was a consensus agreement amongst 14 people from all over the community. It wasn't that was not a neighborhood group, I have to keep stressing. Now let me bring up the current version as it exists, which is still very much a draft proposal. This is, let's see, is this the latest? So this is the latest version based on input I've gotten. So the first thing I just want to point out is it follows leaving space for some commercial or other purpose in the same area. Can you see it? Does the pointer show up when I
Yes.
point? So
Yes.
this area here was the area that the Tannery Work Group designated. Now I have put in the possibility of pavilion. That certainly can be moved. I mean, all this is movable. Basically, I'm starting with what we perceive as interested groups, or something so easy to do that it's a no-brainer, such as this basketball area. And I have talked to. I mean, I'm one neighbor. I've talked to them. I still have to talk to her to see if that would be an issue. But the reason I'm putting it here, this would be the price of a basket or two and possibly some asphalt, because this is a solid slab that already exists. So the cost there is next to nothing. Farmers market obviously is already established. Right now, we actually have this picnic area in. So there's no cost with any of those. Pavilion, obviously, there will be a cost, and I'd actually like to turn that over as much as I can to either Sarah, whoever's very interested in that, because that's the fundraising on that will be a big issue. And that's, to me, that would be, I know Sarah would like to see that be an earlier phase, which is fine if there's money. But, I'm willing to pass that off to whoever really wants to work on that. Now, this area that's designated now for playground and pickleball or skate park, this is the foundation that's there. And what it would take to make that usable is leveling it. Most likely, well, for a playground, it could just be dirt with the sod, with the wood chip idea, which would be relatively inexpensive. I mean, not cheap, but relatively inexpensive. Pickleball or skate park would need probably an asphalted level surface. Now, the reason I have pickleball or skate park there is, I don't know how many of you are aware of the fact that the skate park had to be taken down and moved over to right now at the Knowlton parking lot. I've been in contact, I mean, I've had meetings with the skateboard people that Rafi Baez is the head of, and Catherine White is on that group. And the predicament is they may or may not be able to actually keep it at the Knowlton parking lot. My guess is if they could keep it there, they would, because that would be simpler than moving it, and they may not have to wait as long, to get all the Tannery Park stuff settled.
Tom,
So
can I
that's
say something?
yeah, go ahead.
So, because it was mostly my crew and Public Works disassembling those, they are not going to be able to be put back together. There are 3 smaller elements that will be able to be used again, but those 2 massive pieces had a lot of rotten material in it. And they had already been moved once. So the way they were put back together, there were just massive amounts of nails and screws, and it's just for safety reasons, not going to be able to be put back together. And the Knowlton Street parking lot is a parking lot that we lease with TIF money from the town.
Okay.
And so in order to change what that is, we would have to go to town vote. I just want everybody to know that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and that's the predicament. And it would be nice if there was a pronouncement, especially to the skateboard community itself, so they knew.
A lot of those folks came to help disassemble during the first week that we were over there, and a lot of them saw the condition that it was in.
Right, but a lot of them still have hopes that they could actually make a new skate park.
Well,
at Knowlton.
we're definitely entertaining that, but we need someone to fundraise for it because it's not cheap.
Right, and that would be true whether it was at Knowlton parking lot or obviously at Tannery Park. So anyway, that's why I'm putting pickleball or skateboard park there. Now, in terms of the just to skip over the bike skills path, I've been consulting with both John Anders mostly and Andrew Daly on that. And Andrew's very, thinks it's cool. He hasn't committed to anything yet on it, but he thinks that's very cool. And that the area that is in was the original remediation area, which no excavation can take place, but things can be put on top of it. And the current idea is to keep it as green as possible with a path going through it. It could start out as a dirt path, but it could transition to either packed gravel or possibly asphalt. I have examples that I've shared. I don't know how many people have looked at it or just aware of them for both ways. But again, according to John Anders, this could be started with a weed whacker and some shovels. It could get a lot more sophisticated than that. But again, the possibilities are there to do this at fairly low cost. Now, I acknowledge there is a pump track at the Snow Bowl, but one of the greatest uses Tannery Park is getting right now is parents bringing younger children over. They're learning to ride their bikes, and you see that every day. And there's a lot of places, believe it or not, where bike riding isn't allowed on parking lots. A lot of places it's actually posted that that's not a permissible activity. Plus, this would just be super cool. So basically, even though there's a lot of things here, the idea again would be they would be phased and based on, for instance, if it was a skate park, it would be based on the fundraising that mostly the skateboard community would do. It could be paired with GoFundMe. And as everybody knows, we have a lot of possible angels in our community. the Lions Club, had pledged, a beginning amount of money for the playground. And we started raising, Friends of Tannery Park started raising money back in 2017, but then when all the delays happened and then the select board and Jeremy started talking about maybe putting it up for sale again, we paused all that fundraising. So we haven't been working on it since, basically 2 years ago. So I've got a lot of confidence that a lot of these things could be done with fundraising. So that's where it is right now. Unfortunately, Jeremy was supposed to last 60 days. He lowered it to 50 days to get a proposal in. And one of the big problems is there's still remediation issues. And so I have some meetings scheduled with the DEP, but it has not been stated in the RFP what you can do where, so it fits with the new remediation that may needed to be done. And this is separate from the Riverwalk area. That's a separate issue now. But supposedly, that's the other big thing. We still have the grant money. It sounds like about $50,000 of it has been spent in evaluating the Riverwalk area. But there's still approximately $150,000 of that left. And the way that grant was written, it specifically said this was going to be a community park in addition to possibly a few other things. So we need, hopefully Jeremy can determine, and with him and the DEP, determine what we can do where and how many funds are available, for instance, for leveling this foundation. Originally, a good deal of that money was supposed to be to cover the farmers market lawn area, which is the most used. But Nick Hodgkins from the DEP has said previously that may actually not be necessary, even though 2 feet down, there was some stuff detected, which Ransom Engineering signaled to maybe have a grass cover over this as well. Anyway, we appreciate comments and any other input at this point.
Tom, I think one of the concerns for this would be estimated cost. And obviously, none of these elements are going to go in unless there is fundraising, because the town isn't going to pay up front for the basketball court or bike skills court, at least not in the current climate.
Right.
So I think some general cost estimates of what these different sections would cost, each one. And then also, because I believe that the stewardship of this in the future would be turned over to the Parks and Rec Department. And I think Beth and Holly would have to come up with, okay, what is going to be an annual maintenance estimate as far as a cost for Parks and Rec to take care of this and the separate elements in it. And I think anything that goes to Jeremy or to the town really, as far as ideas on this, would have to say, okay, this is what it would cost for this, and here long term, if these elements go in, what is going to be the Park and Rec cost?
Right. Well, we can get some rough estimates, but as we know, we can't even predict the snowball that we've been running for years. We should get ideas for sure. But I do want to stress again, this will be phased. The farmers market area needs upfront, no cost. The picnic area upfront needs no cost. The basketball area probably needs a few $1,000s to make it really nice. Bike skills path is mostly labor to get it started. We should get costs in what if we did it with an asphalt path, and we'll do that. The major cost for pickleball is just the prep, which is getting this this concrete slab level. And that's where the DEP and Jeremy needs to step up and let us know if how much of that $150,000 could go to that. Because, you know, it's possible that the grant would take care of prepping this. Pavilion, a lot of work has to be done on that. And again, I hope Sarah and maybe Peter, since they were the ones that really got that idea going, would do the research on that. I mean, I would probably put this off till later if it was just up to me, because I see this as by far the most expensive and even complicated element in terms of placing it. I will say the farmers market, I'm in contact with them as well. And they like the idea of it as well. So maybe, you know, they would be more involved. And they will be a party to this proposal as well, just so everybody is aware of that. I mean, they will be a signature to the proposal. And they think, and everybody thinks, there should be a lease agreement. I mean, they want to pay something for their area. They don't expect to keep doing that for no cost, just to let everybody know, because that's going to be, that's always a question. But yeah, I would agree with you. We should get the more cost together. Having 50 days to do this doesn't leave a ton of time. And I'm sure some of these figures can get plugged in later after we see if, what kind of reception this gets.
Good, Holly?
Sarah has sent me photos of, I'm gonna share my screen, Tom, and cancel yours. She has sent me some photos of some pavilions that she has seen various places on their travels recently, this being one of them. And this is a pavilion that I guess it's set up that the cars can actually back up. The vendors can actually back up into each of these spots and open up their trunks or their, their carts, whatever they've got, trailers, with people being able to walk through, which would be kind of a nice COVID sensitive. This is another spot, another place that she's seen that she sent me a photo of. Anyways, I've got 4 or 5, and she's identified what towns they're from. And so you could make some calls and maybe find out how they funded that and what the costs are to build those pavilions, just to give you some help.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Any other feedback from anyone? Jeff?
Just, I think 3 things. One is, I thought early on, Tom, that the playground area was more in that terrain area where you put the benches, the picnic benches. It was sort of just riverside of the picnic benches.
Yes, it was. But I think I can't remember if that was a recent comment you made, but I know at one time you and a few other people were worried about how close that was to the river. That was one issue. And then the other issue is if the skate park does not move to the foundation area, there could be quite a bit of nice room there. And so it would be a convenient place to put that. But I mean, did you have a specific idea different?
No, I just remembered that early on. I thought that was discussed quite a bit.
It was in there to begin with. But I do remember you questioning it and I can't remember exactly why. No?
It wasn't me.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I questioned it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, these can be slid around for sure.
Right. So they're placeholders. And the other comment is I wanted to, and although I'm not on the committee, I really felt that Sarah's email that I think everybody got was on point, and that even though you have the pavilion as a placeholder, it's taking up a lot of space, and it would somehow you're going to have to explain that in your words that that and the farmer's market green space could almost be the same, which opens up the parking and which could be, you're trying to diffuse those issues.
Right, yeah, the only hard thing about that is, I mean, if given a lot of thought, you're gonna lose a lot of green space. And right now, people that are coming to this farmer's market are really loving that lawn. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, there's gonna have to be compromises, obviously.
Maybe so.
Yeah,
Maybe
so that's the issue there. But, you know, I
Yeah.
don't want to scare everybody with a $1 million cost for a pavilion and presenting.
Right, and that's why, breaking it off is good and it could be placed. I don't know.
Yeah,
For me, I was inspired by the idea of inclement weather supporting the farmers market, so that as Holly described and as Sarah described, that cars backed up and shoppers were under cover
yeah.
in the rain or out of the sun or something like that. That was just great, and I've seen it in other places too. Anyway,
Yeah.
that said, the third thing I have is, and I can't remember, Ray, historically, it makes sense for this proposal to emanate and for this group to spend a lot of time talking about the park, because ultimately I think it'll come under Parks and Rec. But did we ever formally vote to say that this is something that Parks and Rec Committee is moving forward to and joining or part of this? I can't remember.
I think that's the question, whether the park and, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a choice. If the Park and Rec Committee wants to be a partner or have a say, I mean, it hasn't been decided. I mean, the main thing that's been
Yeah.
decided is that the select board called the area Tannery Park. While it's not, quote, officially a park, it was named Tannery Park. And but Ray, correct me if I'm right. I don't think it's been decided.
No, it has not been decided, and I would wait until there is more of a defined proposal for what would go into this area. And I would really like to have more than just 4 members of the committee voting on it. I think there needs to be more detail as far as what the elements are, what the cost will be, even an idea of what things would look like on that property as something that the Parks Rec Committee would support or not support.
Me and Ray, me and you have talked about this. I think it'd be very helpful if at some point, maybe not an official meeting, that we all met there, so we can walk this off with the committee.
Why don't you send out an email to everybody on the committee and any other interested parties that you want to, sit down at one of the picnic, well, we don't want to get that close, but
Right, spread out.
meet there and go over what some of the possibilities are.
Okay.
But I really think this, like with the Tannery Worker, this is a separate thing. It's not really part of Parks and Rec yet, or whenever, if it does. But I do think that needs to be a lot more detail before Parks and Rec takes a vote on whether we support it or not.
Yeah,
And I am open for other comments. I don't want to be this total spokesman for that. I'm open for other comments from other members of the committee or everybody else on this call about that.
I mean, originally I joined this committee mostly because this was before Jeremy came on, and I was having a discussion with Audra. Well, where do we go from here to get this tannery work group plan, going? And she said that should be the Park and Rec Committee. Join the Park and Rec Committee and do it through there. So that's kind of the original reason I joined, and that's why I'm suggesting. And I don't know if she still thinks that or not, frankly. But back in 2018 or 2019, that's what she suggested. So,
Okay, I'm open up I'm open for other comments from anybody.
Beth, you look like you had something to say. If you unmute, we'll hear you.
No, I was just telling Ray that he had 5 members here. Is Stuart, Brian, Mark, Ray, Tom.
Mark is here?
Yeah, Mark is here. He's joined us at some partway.
He keeps
Okay.
coming in and out.
He's in and out, but he's here.
He appears static, so I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I just would hope the committee could at least dedicate to play an active role, which you're doing so far.
Yes,
So,
right.
you know,
The one bit of feedback that I would suggest at this point, Tom, and I think it's a great idea personally, is I think that having soft surfaces above the hard surfaces are going to be difficult for drainage and things. So that if it were my plan, I think I would think of maybe the pavilion on top of, that where there's some slab, some foundation stuff already, because then that can be a hard surface. It's going to be protected. It's not going to get violated. And you don't have to worry about drainage.
right. Well, I will be meeting with the DEP in the next 2 weeks. And that was, I know when Peter and Sarah originally brought it up, that was what they were thinking. And then we thought, if we have to pierce the surface of that foundation, that could entail a bunch of more environmental testing. So that's what I'm hoping to get the DEP to at least give an opinion on, as to where, in terms of the environmental issues, it would be the least costly.
Yeah, I mean, that one pavilion that was sitting on the tarmac that you showed the picture of, I'd be really surprised if that was even anchored onto the ground. I think that it did look to me like it wasn't anchored.
Yeah. Does anybody have any suggestions in terms of engineering opinion of, I always get their name confused, Gartley and Dorsey or whatever their name is. Will they occasionally work with the community to do any pro bono engineering opinions?
They do sometimes, as well as Jeff Senders.
Okay, Jeff. Okay, great, good. Thanks. Well, I'm going to keep working on all that, and I'm not opposed to possibly the pavilion being on the foundation, if that works out better.
Okay,
And another possibility may be, and again, I'm thinking of sort of ammunition, is if we had a pavilion and we had parking, it could be, another site where we pick people up if we needed to for Toboggan Nationals, because it would actually give them cover. So I think there's a lot of excellent possibilities, because that pavilion is something that we don't currently have really in any of our parks. And I know I've used the one down at the state park when my son was in scouting. It was great. Even in the middle of winter, we'd go in there and do things, because you could have a roaring fire and whatever. And, you were somewhat protected. So I think it opens up something that's dramatically different and enticing for the community. And it sites it downtown, which is, I think, a really interesting aspect of it. I'd love to have something like that at the Snow Bowl, but the reality is, we have a fair amount of infrastructure. We've got some inside space there. And in the end result, that would be great. But I think right now, the most logical first place to do that would be at the tannery myself.
Right. No, that's great. And if, like I said, if anybody has a little extra time and wants to join that sub effort, that would be great, because I do work full time still too.
all right, fine. All right, let's speed on to a couple of other things. Pathways, Jeff? Hello, Jeff?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not much. Public Works helped repair the erosion issues in front of the Lions Club. I'm going to do outreach to the Lions Club next week, just explaining to them about the future of the Riverwalk. A lot of energy was spent on changing subjects now to Mechanic Street and the painting. If you've noticed, there's no lines still on the street there. Next week, there will be a proposal to the select board talking about the culmination of a lot of discussions with Bicycle Coalition of Maine, MDOT, Dave Saint Laurent. We had a lot of meetings about it, and we were actually hoping for more aspirational design, but it turns out that it just doesn't work to have a newer design there for bicycling, specifically safety, because of all the blind rises and turns on the road. If you drive that road, you'll see that there are a lot of spots that you can't see really, really well. So that's another thing. And I just wanted to, let's see, also in October, we're going to be meeting with Rockland to talk about ways that the towns can connect and our future plans there. And also there's energy afoot to do a regional map, not unlike the trails maps for the two towns. And then I wanted to throw out that if anybody had any questions on the issues that were in the select board about the eminent domain issue on Shirt Tail and connecting the sidewalk there, you can ask me about that if you'd like. That's it.
Okay. All right. Toboggan Committee, Holly, when are we going to start up?
For toboggan meetings?
Yeah, Toboggan Committee, when are we going to start up?
Well, Stuart would like to start tomorrow. But Stuart would like to start tomorrow, but I've told him it's 5 months away.
Way to go, Stuart.
We're thinking middle of October is when we'll have our first meeting. We don't usually open up the team sales until November 1. And right now there's just so many things unknown that it's in the budget to do it. It's in our hearts and minds to do it.
Right.
Yeah, we've got some plans that Stuart and I have talked about offline of how we could do it, but with so many people that come to that event, it may not be something we can do, but the winter may come and the virus is, doesn't like the winter and it bodes well for us. So I don't know, but middle of October, we'll have our first meeting.
Okay, fine. The Snowball Access Road, Beth, you were going to.
Yeah, so JBI was the contractor that the town chose to do the work, and they are going to mobilize some of their equipment starting the 10th, which is this Thursday, I think.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Yeah, oh, tomorrow. Or yeah, so the Wednesday they're bringing stuff out. And they're gonna start digging on starting the 14th, and the access road will be closed to everyone until, I think they're saying September 23rd. Yeah, September 23rd, to give them a buffer to get the job done. So folks coming out to bike, hike, dog walk, whatever they might be doing out here, will need to park in the tennis court parking lot and walk in over the man bridge that is by the score
Right.
board, whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah.
On the field.
Okay, so the road all the way out to Barnstown isn't going to be done? I mean, if people are going to be able to drive in that part or what?
It is. So this is the culvert. They're starting with the culvert first. So that's why there's no access. And then what's going to happen is the grinder is going to come back, grind up all the asphalt, and then they're going to start putting new layers on, and then the road will be finished. So
Okay.
At some point, I'm not sure how long, there'll be one lane open and one lane closed type of scenario. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Is there gonna be a sign up for people to know that they can park in certain areas when that's
Yeah,
going on?
Yeah, Holly put out a press release, but I believe we're gonna also have signage out there explaining where to park.
Good. Okay, fine. Quick last thing here, signage. Holly, I assume you and Beth received information I sent you on where other signs were up in the different parks, what type and everything.
Yeah, we've got that. I've got 8 signs are currently done, completed. And we have, we found out that it's cost prohibitive to buy posts to hang these signs. So we're working with our maintenance crew to come up with a plan to build something, to build some posts for these signs. And as soon as we can get
Mhm.
that done, we can start installing them.
Great. Good. Okay, fine. What are the 8 park areas that you're gonna be putting them in? Do you
Oh,
remember?
gosh.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Shirt Tail, Hodson, Barrett's Cove, Seabright.
Mhm. Good.
That's.
All right, that's fine.
I can remember.
Fine. I'm glad Seabright's going in because there's nothing there at all right now.
Right.
It hasn't been for a
Yeah,
couple.
the maintenance crew did a priority list for us
Mhm.
of which signs they felt were either hard to read, weren't there at all, and those are the first 8 that we worked on this year.
Right. Great. Okay, fine. Anything else anybody wants to bring up?
I just have one quick one, and I'm sorry to go all the way back. Beth or Holly, can you give me a 1 or 2 sentence summary then of the difference in your budget that the select board approved versus the original one?
What's the slight difference? That's what you're asking?
Yeah, Beth, I think he's looking for just sort of like a summary of what and or where your main differences are. And I think what I've heard you say before is you took little bites out of everything. You took little bites out of each line in the.
No, not necessarily. Most of the cuts to expenses were in the Alpine budget, and a lot of that was in payroll. With the idea that we may be cutting hours so that we just have one shift every day that we're open.
That's what I thought. I thought that's what you said. It was personnel,
Yeah.
which is really hard because
It
you're
is
already
very hard.
you're already short staffed.
Okay. All right. One last thing. I think we're going to probably be using this format for at least the next couple of months for meetings. Is this a good time for everybody, or would you rather change to a different time?
Works for us.
Fine here. You might want to send an email to everyone, Ray. I did run into Casey
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, and she told me that she was late in getting her application in and thought maybe she wasn't on the committee anymore. So I'm not sure where Casey stands.
I've been emailing her, but the email address I had for her is Casey Hurd now.
Oh.
Do you have a different, huh?
Is it different?
I don't know. It's maybe my emails to her are not getting to her.
Oh.
All right.
Well, she filled out the application. I told her, get it to Janice anyways.
Okay.
And because, unless other people have been applying, I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, fine. And Mark's in here apparently, so good. Okay, fine. All right, thank you, everybody. And we'll plan to do this in a month.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye. Oh, right here. Good. Okay, here I go. Here we go. Come on, Sunshine. All right.